And then he tells Ezekiel to do something. He tells Ezekiel to preach to the bones. If you have ever done any teaching or preaching, you know exactly what he's talking about. I love the story of the lady that was trying to wake her son up, and she said, "You got to go to school?" And he said, "I don't want to go to school." She said, "You've got to go." And he said, "Nobody at school likes me. The kids don't like me. The teachers don't like me. Nobody will sit with me at lunch. And they even sometimes they write things about me on the bathroom walls." And she says, "You've got to go. You're the principal." And so we understand what you're talking about when you say preach to the bones. But if you've ever taught 13 and 14 and 15-year-olds, you know what it means to preach to the bones. If you've ever done any teaching, you've seen the glazed over eyes. You've seen the faraway look where people are wondering about what they're going to have for lunch and people are not paying attention. And so Ezekiel was probably taken aback and he thought, "Are you kidding me? I've got to preach to the bones. I've got to preach to these old dead bones." And people have felt that way. At churches I know have been where you preach to the bones and you just feel like you're just preaching to people that's not even listening, not even care. School, certainly that is a situation. But Ezekiel followed the commands of God. And he started to preach to the bones. I'd have loved to have been there to hear that sermon. I'm telling you what, because every bone started to move. You talk about revival. They had a revival in the Valley of Bones. I don't know what he said. I would have loved to have had a copy of what he said, but Ezekiel started preaching to the bones, and I'm telling you, they started to shake, rattle, and roll. And they started to move, and the foot bones were connected to the leg bones, and the leg bones started being connected to the hip bones, and the hip bones connected to the spine, and you have the ribs and everything, the clavicle and the scapula, and the head comes on, and then it says the tendons and the ligaments started to form, and then it says the musculature and the fat started to come, and then the skin came off. It had to be an exciting place to be. Wouldn't you love to be in a church where everybody came alive? Wouldn't you love to be in a church where all the bones started to shake, rattle, and roll? And then he got all fired up, and they looked good, everything was there, and he went over to congratulate one of them, but they were dead. They looked good, but they were dead. Reminds me of some churches I've been to. They looked good. Everything was in place. They had all the things going on that's supposed to be going on, but there was no life. No life. There are marriages where from the outside they look pretty good. They look like people are doing what they're supposed to do, but there's really no life. Sometimes you can have relationships with your parents or relationships with children, and you get together for Thanksgiving and you exchange presents at Christmas, but there's really no relationship there. There's no life. That's kind of what you can do with human effort and human energy. You can build some great things, and you can build some things that look successful from the outside, looking in. But is there life? We talked about in John 17 today, where we're talking about, and this is life eternal. What is life? That they may know Thee, the only true God. And so he's basically saying there is no life. And you can go through your whole life here on earth and never really live.